You watch me from, wherever you follow me from. Welcome to the Dialectic Space podcast. And clearly, you can see today we are taking off, cheesing and smiling very much because this is me and my big brother, Mr. Sariang Marong, today as my guest. By the way, he's the first family guest that I'll have to interview or have a conversation with dialectically on the Dialectic Space podcast. And I'm pretty excited about it because Sariang is a really wonderful person that I've had the pleasure of not only being a family member to, but also, really being interested to learn from him, being a mentor to me in many ways, but also the fact that he continues to live a very respectable and admirable life. Not only the fact that he is a businessman, which he is now, but also the fact that he has always been interested in various parts of our social life, and also political life as well. So Sariang is a Gambian based here in Washington, and used to also be in the military service here in the United States. And my hope, or at least my goal today, is really for us to have a conversation about his journey, all it's beginning from Gambia. Hopefully, I get to learn things that I didn't know about my own background and upbringing, and getting all the way from there to his work in the Gambia and then eventually to the United States and then his politics as well, because I believe a lot of people are interested in that. So, Sariang, welcome to the Dialectic Space podcast.
All right. Thank you, Brahma. Glad to be with you.
I said this is a family affair, and people are laughing. And I was just saying to them, I said, you guys don't really know, man. Sariang
Yes.
is my big brothers. My dad and Sariang's mom are same mom and dad, so our relationship is very, very close. This is literally my first cousin, also a big brother. So this will be good. Well, I'm going to
Yes.
enjoy it, and I hope our audience would enjoy it too. How are you doing today?
Good, 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 good. Glad to be here, Ibrahima. Thank you very much. And I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot of historical aspect between the Sonkos, the Marongs, the Sanyangs, the Sanes, and all these, rounded perspective of who we are, where we hail from, who are our grandparents, what they are into, and what inspired all of us to be
Yeah,
here today, right? So I think that is very, very important. Just to give a historical context,
yeah.
my name is Sariang Marong. I was born in Gambia, born in Sintate, Fonyi, and my dad was a businessman. His name is Mbandi Marong. And our grandfather, Nyarika, both you and I's grandfather, Sonko, he was a businessman in Sintet, and Sinte used to be a hub, a business hub back in the days, and also he did business in Biam, and that's where your dad was born. That's where my mom is born. We still have a house there in Sinte Maronkunda, and my grandfather's house in which is in Sinte Sonkokunda. But just to give a little bit of background, your dad, and my mom have special relationship, and that translates to my dad and your dad are very good brothers. I mean, they are in-laws, but also it translates to a very strong bond, and you always, whenever I talk to you about Brikama, you are always fascinated how I remember
Yeah.
all the things in Brikama and all that, but it was not out of vacuum. So when
Mhm.
I was very, very young, we were in Kartong. My dad always believed that I need to go to your dad. Whenever we close school, I spend my entire summer in Brikama. When Bamboo was young, I was young. Your dad was there, and we always go to the farm. I enjoy, and I have a special relationship with your dad. Your dad and I travel when he does this business. We went to Busra, we went to Nyomfele, and all these other places. I mean, he was like a father figure to us. Uncle. But also, I learned a lot of lessons from him. He believes in hard work. He's very compassionate. The little that he has, he wants to share with everyone. That's how he is. I mean, Songokunda, today we see a lot of people in Songokunda, but that didn't start today. It started back from your dad. I mean, he was the one who was very, very compassionate. Whatever he has, I mean, he was a business guy, as I said, hardworking. I mean, you know, for us, Bambo and I are like cousins, but we're like brothers. I
Yes.
remember whenever he bring stuff and Bambo will take some clothing and you know, and he was like, Sariamba, if I'm beloring, if I'm ata, you know, he left them in now, if I'm otaji. So I'll take some, and that's how we are, and we grew up. I mean, basically, I'm very, very close to him. I mean, everyone knew this, and my mom's side too. I mean, my dad and your dad gets along. They get along. They get along. They are like brothers. They talk and they visit each other. And I remember we made a trip, and both my dad, when my dad was alive, and he passed away like 87, and when my dad passed away, we were in Katong. Your dad, but dad said, no, you guys cannot live in Katong anymore. You guys need to move to Brikama. And that's how we moved to Brikama and joined the family out there. But it's been great. And I remember, you know, he's very, very, very kind, but also he has a strong faith in God, right?
Yeah.
So anything that he does, you know, he has to include God in it. And I remember he says, anything that you do, when it benefits your family and it benefits humanity at large, you need to double your efforts. You need to make it worthwhile. And he says, if you do, God will put more blessings in what your undertakings are. And I remember that fully. And you know, some days, you know, and Bambo, of course, you know, back in the days, he would come in and his favorite dua is whenever we eat, he will say, you know, he will put his two hands together and say, Alhamdulillah, bi sonia, alma sama sonia. Like, you know, and usually, you know, Bambo has his favorite dishes, and days that Bambo think they didn't cook his favorite dish, he would say, ikatula nyun dua la kavo bi sonia da luol, biman sonia, and they will turn around and say, Sariamba, for biman sonia, I said, oh, Mbarijamba, yes, bi sonia, and Antikadi will say, you know, so obviously I would not expect anything different from what Barinjamba said than Sariang said. So that was a context. But Fanta grew up around him. We all grew up. Kombe was there. Muskeba was living with her grandma in Bumari. So the lineage goes from Sintet to Urokan, where Sonko Keba was there, and he goes to Quinala. And for them, the Patanapi side, it's in Nyomi Sika. That's where they are obviously from. So you come down from Sintet, you go to Jataba, you go to Bumar, you go to Quinala, where your mom too is from, and your grandmother, and where our grandmother also is from, and you got Sonko Jinandi. But your dad was an Islamic scholar, so the grandpa said, you know what, you need to go to Jinandi. There used to be this big guy, and there was a huge Islamic presence in Jinandi. So he was there, and he learned the Quran through this calling Kanchorno Silla. You know, Kanchorno Silla has descendants. If you see in Brikama, you see Silla Kunda and all that. Those are the descendants of Kanchorno Silla. And the Kanchorno Silla, yes. And he is the one, actually, who they name Uncle Karamo after. Uncle Karamo, they call him Karamo as an elderly, but he was named after Kancherno Silla from in Jinandi, and because they had this huge relationship, they has this big relationship with our grandfather, and that translates to Dramekunda as well, an extension. You know, the Ibrahimas, the Muhammad, Tata Abbas, and Mustafas, their grandfather. You know, Alaji, my big brother, is named after their grandfather, their biological grandfather. So that is just the context of who we are, and you know, and I still, the business part of it, you know, the motivation and inspiration comes from your daddy and my dad, because they believe in trade, and they do it at the time. They will do it with all these huge merchandise. They will put it on public transportation. We take it from one end to another, and during those times we have deep conversations. They talk about being upright and being truthful
Mhm.
and be able to stand and speak when you think it's right. And I remember your dad always tell me this. Kana du mul kasida, kana mul tonye. Bari nisa diamono puru ka tonya sabandinde puru ka badia samana mul tema ka mul temo deda. Inyanta kawoke, wolam keat. He tells me that all the time. And my dad, and later on when my dad passed away, I always hang out with your dad, and he inspired me a lot. He's the man that I look up onto, and he has a special bond with my mom, and that translates to all the siblings, and including
Yeah.
Kadi and all that. But anyways, very pious man. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember when we're sleeping, he will come and knock on the door. I mean, Salatul Fajr, you have to pray and you have to go to the mosque and all these things. I learned this from him, and he's a great man. We all miss him dearly, and he wants to bring within the family. He's all about family. He's all about cooperation. He's all about looking up to each other and helping each other for us to thrive in a shared space, and that's all he's all about. And I want to make sure that you share, because I know you are young, and but I remember him. I mean, later on when he has that shop at the market, that was very later on. This is a man who is very, very dedicated to his family, who is also dedicated to the extension of his family. He takes care of it. He will tell me, he says, your dad and I are brothers. You've seen that. You grew up that. We travel with you sometimes. And we had these conversations. So you are my son. That's what he's been telling me. And I look up onto him.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm not even gonna lie, sorry, man. This is very emotional and a lot to take in, but it's also, a man that in many ways I've looked up to. There's a lot of things that a lot of people don't know because a lot of us are not used to talking about our parents on social media. But I think there is no better person to contextualize this than you. So really, thank you very much for sharing that. A story about my late father. Again, what people don't also know, my dad was also the alcalde of Brikama Newtown. So he was also in some way, shape, or form involved in politics. He was also involved in leadership. So a lot of what you see me do or Sarian do or other people that are like us is because we've also seen that very closely, very intimately from the kind of household that we are raised from. But Sari, I'm also curious to ask you, obviously your formative years from Katong to Brikama, and then faith played a huge role in your growing up. And I was just curious also, like, what was your experience like growing up in Brikama in those days? What were the things that influences you most? And what were the individuals that had a great impact on you? And I make reference to Uncle, you mentioned Uncle Karamo Sonko. A lot of you don't also know this. Karamo Sonko is a prominent Gambian who has been living away from Gambia for a long time, but has an incredible impact in the lives of a lot of people in terms of his work. And his Sariang's uncle is my uncle as well. Is there any way that he also had impact on you growing up, or is it Alaji Marong? Your brother Alaji Marong is the reason I'm studying law. It's because of him that I've decided that that's what I want to do as well. So that impact is also on me. So, what is your story in terms of growing up from Brikama, and who were some of the most prominent figures that had impact on you to sort of help you to choose a path for yourself growing up?
I think I started off with your dad and my dad, and I think they set the stage. And as you know, Uncle Karamo's mom passed away a long time ago when he was very, very young. So our grandmother, Aja Kamara, raised Uncle Karamo. So Uncle Karamo actually grew up because your dad, our grandfather, and my dad, they get along. So Uncle Karamo was raised by my mom. He went to Sintate High School and primary school, ultimately St. Augustine's. But this family unity was there. So you could not tell today, you know, if Aja Kamara was not Uncle Karamo's biological mom. You couldn't tell because that's who he knows, who raised him through our grandfather. But furthermore, the fact that the uncles also get along. I mean, there was Uncle Jamba, Uncle Seku, Uncle Dudu. All of these folks were there, but they set the stage because I met all of them in person. And usually we used to have this big reunion in Sintet. And my dad's compound is right in there by the market, the big market. That's where it is. And he used to be a businessman from Makati all the way. They all come down there. I cannot count how many people will tell me, your grandfather, Nyarika Sonko, your dad, sponsor me at school and all that stuff. So it was an evolution. But the kindness, the passion, I learned it from them. And later on in life, when, as I said, when we moved to Brikama, I went to school to St. Augustine's. I used the public transportation every single morning and to the man bus to Banjul. And I grew up around the Adi Suaz, the late Khalifa Bajinkas, Lamin Kambi, LDs, Sekumanes, Bahore, who is my brother, So these folks I grew up around when they were all young. We learned, we cried together, we struggled together. And I'm just gonna tell you one thing too. Even your dad, he has this donkey in the past. We used to have donkeys that helps you harvest. He used to have that. And Bahore and I, when one politician take a swipe at donkey drivers, all of us take exception, because you know why? because in the past, when I come from Carton, guess what? Bahore and I, and Bambo can attest this, everybody can attest it, for the entire summer month, because no matter what happened, on Fridays, we don't go to the farm. And I believe on Mondays and some days, your dad believes that we cannot go. So those 80 days, we use that donkey anywhere around Buffalo. I know it. We go down there, Neto. We go and get Netakato and Kawaleke. Then we sell it. Be Bahore and I. So Bahore will go in there, do that. We get a bunch and we put it on the donkey cart, and I will drive the donkey to the marketplace and sell it to the old ladies. And while Bahore is doing that, and we do that for the whole entire, summer. And the time when I comes to go back to Kartong, I have my pocket full of money because I have my pocket money and all that stuff. But now that's why when they say donkey driver, I said, you know what, donkey is good, because we used to use donkey as a means of mechanism to help in our farms and stuff. And we use it really, really, really well, and as a source of subsistence as well. So it was intriguing. But moving on, Uncle Karamo took the exam, common entrance in Sintet. He came out first. He went to St. Augustine's, did his all levels and GCA, and went to Swaziland, and for his bachelor's, and he went to Cambridge, ultimately to the United States, where he did his PhD, and Colorado Springs. But Uncle Karamo always instilled discipline and also talk to us about the benefit of education. Says no matter what, you need to go to school. And in fact, I remember when I was about to take my O levels, he sent me this application to go to University of Lesotho. And I say, Uncle, man, I want to go to America, And he says, you want to go to America? I say, yeah. He says, so how do you go about this? I said, I know people, they apply on, applications. And luckily I applied. I have my scholarship. I have my I-20, and ultimately I travel over here. And when I travel here, this was back in the 95s and all that. Bill Clinton was the president, and my host was guys that we built relationship with from Carton, and they were in Madison, Wisconsin. They saw me the tropes and they introduced me. As you know, if you first come here, the person, your host, wherever he works, he will go introduce you. And these guys are really great guys. Omar Ning and Jibril, I'm very, very grateful to them. And they host me. They introduced me to Madison Keep Corporation. It's a manufacturing die-cast company corporation. And they manufacture auto parts. And majority of us are working there as Gambians, So I was there, and in 1999 I decided, and there was actually a quality assurance supervisor. She is an African American woman. Her name is Charlie Foyer. So by then I worked many hours, and I took some classes at Madison Area Technical College. And in between breaks, I tried to do my homeworks. And one day she approached me and said, Sariang, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm trying to do my homework, man. And she's like, have you ever think about joining the military? They can pay your college. You don't have to work here. I said, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. And she said, no, you know what? Thanksgiving is coming up. My son is in the Navy. He just graduated. I would like to invite you guys to my house. Meet him, talk to him, and let him talk to you about the Navy. Then I went and met the young man, and we spoke. And he says, you know what? I'm home for 3 weeks. Let me introduce you to my recruiter. So he introduced me to your recruiter. I got on the phone. I said, I'm going to do this. I talked to Alagi. I talked to my mom. I'm like, oh, man, America. I said, I'll be fine. Yes. So I plugged on, and I did. I went for training, and my first duty assignment was in Japan. I was in Japan for 3.5 years. I was coming back and forth, and I accomplished. I traveled around the globe. I went to China, Shanghai, went China-American relations in Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore many times, all the East African countries, Asian countries. So it was an eye-opening. But also I was able to connect with people who don't look like me, who don't speak like me, who are from a different background, but we get along. We build family. And we get along very, very well. And that's what I learned from humanity. No matter where you are, if you are receptive and you're receptive to growth, you need to expose to different perspectives. And that's what I learned moving along. And I will talk to you more about the Navy because I accomplished a lot in the military. And
we'll
up to today, and I'll wait on for your next question. Yes.
Yes, no, we'll get to the Navy. But Bajinka is on the chat. He's asking about your career, your career as a coach in those days in Brikama, because
yes,
I really want
AC Milan. You understand?
I didn't know that part. I didn't know you were a coach, Saria.
Oh, no, I was a coach. AC Milan is my team, and we had this shift competition between us and Bajinka, and Sidlamin is the coach for the other part. So because our families grew up. Sidlamin's dad also. If you don't know, he used to be good friends with our grandfather, and when they're from Kamamudu. Kamamudu is an extension, Sintet, very close to Sintet. So we had relationships, and that relationship was there. So it was we get along, and the Yaya and I, Yaya, you used to live with, when I used to live in Kamarakunda, Yaya and I share the same bed. I mean, we were pretty much the same. So we get along. To Yaya today, if things are difficult, I pick up a phone call, I talk to Yaya will drop it. And that's how much relationship and respect that we have for each other up to today. So, and I'm very, very grateful.
So after your education in the Gambia, before we move to US, because we're definitely going to spend a lot of time on your military career and business, and then eventually we'll wrap it up with the political bit of it. When you were in Gambia, after you finished school, what was your first professional experience like working in the Gambia? If you will also tie that to what was the social and political situation of the country, because I'm assuming that this was the time of Jawara, and then eventually Yaya Jammeh came. I think shortly after that was when you left to go to the United States. But what was the political situation of the country when you were growing up at the time in this environment? And what was your first professional job also like in the Gambia?
So when we were growing up, we grew up pretty much around Jawara. And even last week I was talking to my wife here. I said, what I found missing in today's political space is tolerance. During Jawara's time, people embrace each other. And there was a young lady not long ago. I met her and we were talking. And I told her that, when she said her uncle is so and so, I said, oh, I remember your uncle. I remember your uncle at Customs. He used to work at Customs. He says, yes. I said, my cousin, Sariang Sise, used to work there. He was their boss. I said, your uncle used to give me a lot of money. I mean, in fact, one time when Bambo was in Germany and he sent these vehicles, I drive vehicles from Brikama to Banjul. And sometimes he will say, this guy Antuman Saho used to be the Marine unit commander, at the port yard, and he says, go down there, he's going to give you, gas, free gas. They will fill the tank, the whole entire week. I will have that, and I will drive it anyhow I want. And I said, and I remember those. I said he would hand me pocket of money in an envelope and say, your boss is very, very kind to us. And he said, you are his Toma. I've seen back in the day, Sariang says we share the namesake, we're cousins, but also her mom is our sister, is an uncle. So we share this when I go there, all of us, including the Malik Lees, Usman Job, and all them, they would give me a lot of money. And I said, I miss that connection today. People are attacking each other. When you say something, they don't want to be tolerant. And I said, I missed it. And even my Christian friends, I spend a lot of time during, Easter, April, they share their meal. I remember my good friend, Dr. Mbai, Lamin Mbai, he's in Texas now. He was my classmate. They live, behind St. Augustine's High School, Tobacco. We used to go visit his home. His dad, older man, we will sit in the middle of the compound and reading Quran every time we go out there. He will ask everyone, where you from? And he's very curious to know what your background is and all that. But I remember Mbai's mom, when we have IRK around 1 o'clock and school needs, when we go down there, Mbai's mom will force us to eat. He says, you're taking a bus, and before you reach Brikama, it's going to be around 4, 5 o'clock. So wait, you eat and go. And before we leave, the dad will pull us aside and say, I am encouraged what I'm seeing. You guys are going to be the elders tomorrow. We're not going to be around, but I want this camaraderie, this unity to move forward. It doesn't matter whether you are Mandinka, whether you are Sose, whether you are Fula or anything. He says, what unites us is humanity. And I want you guys to move forward. I want Damabuga Purungen Japalante. No, this is what he's. And when I told Mbai this, Mbai started laughing. He says, you remember everything? I say, yes, I remember, because these things resonate. And today, sometimes I ignore stuff. It's not because I'm scared, because I really think it's a fertile, waste with futile gesture, and I don't think that is what I want to be at. I want to be able to connect with people, drive conversations that's going to make an impact on people, not be pasturing, not be bringing stuff like. But my job, to be honest, when I'm in Gambia, I work for the president's office, which is called NIA, NSS NIA. I did that, but I did that for almost 1 month. And here is another thing that really, when we did it, at that time when Jammeh came in initially, they formulated, they gave them a lot of power and all that. So one day, I think that's when I resigned, because I at that point, I was not interested in anything except to travel. So when I did that, one day due through Algali Commission, and my brother Alaji was a state attorney at the Algali Commission. So one day they were saying, we need to have an operation. So usually where they go, they take people out of their compounds and all that stuff. But the rules are, for example, if Ibrahima is related to Sariang and we're going to go after Ibrahima, whoever is the lead guy for that operation needs to brief me where we're going to go, what the operation is. But I got a tip off. That day, it was my cousin, Sariang Sise. And, the lead says, let's go. I said, no. I want to know what the mode of operation is and where are we going? Because someone else told me that we're going to your cousin's house. And I said, today, because I used to be stubborn, I said, today I will resign. This job doesn't worth shit to me, and I'm not going anywhere. And Baba, I remember, Baba saw the same Baba. Oh, you resign? I said, if you want, number one, you didn't hire me. Mm-hmm. You didn't hire me. And I'm not going. I am not going. And you tell me what the rules are. So Marina, late Daba, intervene and say, Sariang, no, you're not going. You stay here. But at that point, I've become very disconnected with the whole operational apparatus and they always call me rebel and all that. So they started monitoring me. To be honest, they did, because the day I flew to America, that's the day they wanted to write a charge sheet that I don't show up, I am very evasive, I don't do this, I don't do this. So, but that day, there used to be Air Afrique. So you go from Banjul to that. So I remember, someone tipped them off that I'm traveling. So Mustafa Toure, he used to be an NIA agent. He came on to the aircraft and say, "Hey, Sariang, you have clearance from there." I said, "What clearance? I don't want this job, and I don't care. I'm going to America. Get out of my face." And no. I said, "No." Then you know how these Senegalese are. They are very passionate about their job. And there was an air hostess. He came and he says, "Hey, key, I'm not pay documentation." He presented up to the aircraft. It's time for the aircraft to depart. So you need to get out. So when he get out, that time people don't like Jamaica and all that. Everybody started clapping and screaming. And that's how I went. And,
What's the
after I
timeline?
told,
What year was this? What's the timeline?
I think this was like 95 or 90, end of 94. I
And
think so.
how old were you during this time?
Oh, I was 24 years old.
24.
But I was not scared. I was not scared. I told him, and I called Alaji immediately, and I said, these guys. Where he says, "Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna go down to their office right now." And I even wrote my resignation letter, and I give it to Ndea Amisane. Ndea Amisane lives in England. I mean, she can attest because she was the personal secretary to the then DG, late Sanaba. So I was not interested. I've never hit nobody. I've never detained. I've never interrogated. I never arrested. And during my little time too, there was time whereby if you don't like somebody, you go and turn him in. And I would, this particular case, I want to make sure that for the record, and there are times whereby they say, go monitor, go in disguise and listen to these people and bring the report. And anyone, I believe in whatever someone did, good or bad, you should be able to share that story with people, right? So Daba Marina, the late Daba Marina, he called me Alhaji Musanyai, the same Musanyai that raised current president Barrow. And he has this shop, I remember the street, whether it's Haddington or I don't recall, but it's opposite. There's a supermarket. So someone came in and told, like, "Oh, they are out there. Every time they're talking about politics, and political gatherings are banned." And I remember Marina said, "Among everyone, I wanted to task you with this operation. I need you to go. I know big Gambian business folks, they are reporting each other. They said this man is doing this and this and this. I want you to go. Your assignment is for 3 days to go out there and listen and collect intelligence." So I went out there, that was my task. I would blend in and would sit down with them, would drink attire. And the second day, man, I told Marina, I said, "Man, there is absolutely nothing that I hear that is close to politics." And when I did that, I went to the old man and inside, I said, I wanted to talk to the owner. He says, "Oh, it's me." And between Sarahulis and Baribunkas. So I identify myself. I took my ID card, before, and then I showed it to him, and I said, "This is who I am. They report you to the NIA, and I was sent here on an assignment. But I really felt that I need to let you know so that you can be mindful around your surrounding." And before I even say, he says, "No, stop. Let me call my son." His son is Banta. Banta came in and he says, "Nsana okay, love there for Banta Nyala." So I repeat the same thing. Banta said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." I said, "I didn't see anything. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to report back to Marina, who assigned me, to let him know that there was absolute. But I also want you guys to be extra careful that there are people who are turning you guys in." And I seen the gathering, is very conducive and all that. And be careful. And he says, thank you very much. Banta was married to Kinsa Jawara, and all that. So that is sort of what I do during that time. I'm not there to create some type of uh, havoc on Gambians, because I understand that people might be jealous of, because the old man has a business that is flourishing, and they wanted to undermine him, and they want him to butt head with Barrow and all that. Not Barrow, but Jammeh. So I decided to say this, and I told Marina when I went out to Marina. I told Marina, I said, Marina, I said, this is what I did. I break the protocol. He says, what did you do, Sariang? First of all, he told me, go stand at the corner. I want you to stand at attention because you told me you break some rules. So I did. I complied, and I said, he says, so now tell me what you did. I said, the old man was nice to me, and the amazing part too was every time I was there, they don't know who I am. But when they bring their lunch, they will force me to eat with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Marin, I said, absolutely, there was nothing close to politics that were being discussed there. And he says, this is what I like. And the reason why I select you for this mission, because I knew if you come in, you will all tell me the truth. And then Banta is there, and the old man passed away, but I wanted to make sure I share this. So sometimes you see me, I say, I'm not scared to speak the truth, because I know how I was raised. But your own dad always tell me this. He implore upon me to be upright and speak the truth, no matter how inconvenient it is. And that is something that is dear to my heart. I apply it every day around life, around people, and I stand up for the folks that are vulnerable. And we'll talk about that besides the business and all that. But that's what I did, Ibrahim, in a nutshell. And everyone knows that. I stood up and I told Baba Sao, he will tell you. There is Mandas. In fact, Mandas, there is a guy called Mandas. He's from Latrikunda. He's the one who actually tipped me off and say, hey, be careful. We're going for your cousin. And I said, no. There was Jaune, there was some guy, Samba, I don't recall all of them. But I said, no. And right in that reception, I told Baba, I am not going to go and I will resign. Because I was not interested anyways. I am here and I wanted to go to America. And guess what? I came to America and life is good. They cannot tell me Sarian did this, Sarian did, because what I was, in fact, there was another one, Jawara's niece, I think her name is Mama Jawara, and the OJs, when they had this demonstration and all that nonsense, they tried to, I said, I am not gonna get into any of these things. And I ultimately said, I was sick not to be involved in anything. And they told me they're going to transfer me to ops room, which is an operational room, communication room, to be here on a shift work. I said, I'll take it in good faith. I called Mariana. Mariana said, no, you're not going to ops room. You work for me and you're going to stay in the office. And that's what I did.
So Sarian, so clearly, a lot of what people that have so much impact in your life influence a lot of your social justice. I mean, in terms of your interest and concern about the plight of, ordinary folks back home, especially in the Gambia in those days. And this is also, again, by virtue of very important people in your life, including my late father, including figures in your life that played an important role in your life. And it just also reminds me of your mom. Before we move, your late mother, Mba Binta Sonko, may her soul rest in peace, was my favorite person in the family, simply because I remember every morning my dad would put me on his bicycle after we pray Fajr at the Brikama Newtown Mosque, and we'll go to your mom's house in Dasilame, and then after that we'll also go to Alaji Jikine's house in Jeddah. And then every morning your mom will make mono for me. And mono minaje, then she will pray for us, then she will pray with my dad, and then we'll say hello to Aja, the late Aja Kamara, my grandmother, and then we'll go. So I used to do this for a long time with my dad. Every day my dad would put me on his bike. And I want to say that specifically to pinpoint that your mom had had a huge impact on my life. You begin this conversation with the impact my dad had on your life, but your mom had significant impact on my life. Especially, I remember when I was young, I was constantly having stomach ache. I was constantly getting sick, and she was particularly interested to help my mom to find reason as to why I was constantly getting sick. But she was also overly too protective of me in those days. We all come from extended families, and sometimes it becomes tough. But she'll always tell my mom that Ibrahima is a unique kid. Whatever that means, I didn't understand it in those days. But she always constantly was checking with my mom to ensure that I get everything I needed when I was going to school, that I was being cared for as much as possible, but that the sickness I was also having, she found solution to it. So I miss her a lot. She's had incredible impact on my life, and I think it speaks to the kind of family that you and I both come from, and I think that is important. But if you would spend a little bit time, very briefly, to tell us a little bit about your mother as well.
Yes, our mother, as you know, my dad passed away at an early age, and your dad made it a point of duty that we need to move to Brikama. So my mom was there. Alaji was going to Foro Bay College in Sierra Leone at that time. He started off Foro Bay College, where he did his LLB, and subsequently, when he came in, he practiced for a little bit. When he came back, and when I traveled, it was not that long. So, but the mom was single mom. He brought us up, gave us money. We don't have a silver lining feed up to our sugar. I mean, all the way from Bajinka Kunda, all the way I can remember, all the way to Samatakunda. None of those moms and dads are very hardworking, and they believe in their family. I remember Bajinka Kunda. There's a lot of people out there. The dad, Bajinka didn't even join the service by then. I mean, Bob, what is Weir's mom and Khalifa's mom too. They were there. But the unity, the old man, by the old man. Yeah. I remember he also he also whenever Fajr comes pray and the boys, it used to be like a huge presence to
Mhm.
folks, all the young folks from Kamamudu, Kamanka, and all that were staying in Bajinka Kunda. And if Fajr time comes in, they don't want to wake up. And I remember fully one day he, wa- he was calling them to wake up for Fajr prayer, and they refused. And the dad is a very interesting guy. So he went on the roof and he took this cold water and poured it on them. And then we will remember all this. He said, Ensa, oh yeah, and yeah, we could be like, Pabi, come will come from the back. And so there was this window, and it's a corrugated window. I mean, when Fajr time comes, they don't want to pray. The old man will just keep hitting it, keep hitting it, keeping. Everyone in the neighborhood will wake up and will say, "It's Salatul Fajr. We need to wake up and we need to pray. You guys need to pray." And that's how dedicated these folks are. And
Yeah.
you go to Ibn Jai's house, his dad, Kukun Jai,
Mhm.
and Folonko's dad. I remember all these, Sanyang Kunda and all that. But there was also unity.
Mhm.
And also what I learned is it was they respect each other. So if you're an elderly, they look upon you and they console you and everything they look upon. And rightfully you said my
Mhm.
mom and your dad were very, very close. Your dad always come. Your dad deeply cares about us and our welfare. And he says, "Intela dimba atul bemu intela dimba alati, intela marta atul bela." That's what he keeps saying. I remember that fully. And my mom was very, very hardworking. Goes to the market, sells stuff, bring it, cook it. And I think the humble beginning of us, not from a rich family. Our fathers were doing business, but the business went out of, it goes bankrupt.
So not
And
strong.
yes, it was not strong. I mean, your dad too. I mean, it was, but what they got, that's what they share with folks. They were not big business folks. They are hustlers. And whenever I say I'm hustling and keeping it real, I drive that motto from your dad and my dad, because these folks are very, very passionate. They always want to work They always want to take care of their family, and my mom too. I mean, she did everything that she can basically, and you know, yeah, and she didn't survive today. I always think about it. I said, you know, with everything that we got going on, I wish my mom was here. And every time there is some type of dispute with someone and their parents, I probably 2 months ago I was talking to a young man. I said, hey, my mom came over here. Immediately after I transferred from Japan, she came to visit, and she was here for about 6 months. He says this place is lonely. She needs to go back home. Her mom is there. Blah. Gave me all the excuses. She went back. She went back. 3 months later, she passed away. And I told them, if I can resurrect her, I will. I said, but so take care of your mom, look up onto her, respect her, and do what she pleases. You might disagree, but take it easy. She's your parent. I said, losing a parent, we lost parents. We lost our dad. We lost our mom. But our mom laid the foundation. And when our mom passed away, your dad was right in the middle. Fanta played a huge role. Uncle Karamo played a huge role. So these are folks who prevails on me. And up to today, no matter how hard I hold on to something, if they pick up a phone call and talk to me, I'll drop it no matter how hard it is. And Jaban too. I'm not going to forget Jaban.
Mm-hmm.
When your dad passed away, Jaban took the role. The reason why Jaban has so many compounds. But Jaban stayed in Songokunda until he passed away. It was nothing but the foundation that your dad laid out. And Jaban always listened to your dad. He's the firstborn, but he listened and he looked up onto him. And if you go down there, they are sitting side by side and speaking. And your dad always called me Sariamba. That's what he calls me. That's my name for him, Sariamba. And anything you said, he's pleased. He says Tabarikallah. That's
Okay.
I remember that about him. And
He will say that's right. That's right. He will say that's right.
That's right. That's right. Tabarikallah.
Well, Sariang, also on that, you guys grew up right across from the house in Banyikakunda. I'm not even sure.
Yes.
Maybe that was the time the compounds were even one. And Khalifa Bajinka is his soul rests in perfect peace. Kotoke, very prominent Gambian who passed away some years ago in the United States and also became one of the leading figures during the former President Jammeh's time. Speak about Khalifa a little bit. What was your relationship like with him? What impact did he have on you growing up and also later on in life when he moved here in the United States?
So Khalifa, definitely, as I said, all the relationships start when I used to leave Khartoum to go to uh, see your dad and spend that summer. These are folks that I spend time with. I mean, at the corner there, we play Scrabble. I remember during Ramadan, all we do when we wake up, we'll play Scrabble, we'll brew attire, we'll do everything. And through that, during Iraqi war, when the United States invade Iraq, and we always have this conversation, and we'll go some some pro Iraq, some pro America.
America.
So I was very passionate about Iraq, and I always believe in the Republican gods. So Khalifa named me Tariq Aziz. He says, you are a foreign minister. That's what he says. He says you speak with so much passion, and he always called me Tariq, and that Tariq continue to up to today. So he called me Tariq Aziz. But we also have a special bond. And when he graduated from Nusrat High School, you know, because of he was the breadwinner, and he thought, you know, Zandarmari was the best route at that point. He has good scores, very intelligent. So Khalifa went in, and Lamin Soyo, Lamin Jaju also went in as well. And luckily, there was a Turkish training team with the Zandarmari, and he was awarded scholarship with the late Kejau Toures, Buba James, and a whole bunch of others. They went to Turkey and Ankara, and they went to officers' course. And ultimately, when they came in, they were commissioned. And by the time they came back, I think few months later, there was a coup d'etat, and there was police, and I think when they came in, Gendarmerie and police were together, and Chongan was their boss. I remember Chongan fully, and we used to go to Fajara barracks, hang out, and they called Chongan Dindi Mansa at the time. So, but they get along. I mean, even all those people, when they meet, there's always camaraderie, a positive spirit what they share among them. So it was very, very enlightening. So that relationship continues until he went to mile 7. I stayed with him briefly before I traveled, but Khalifa was very, very kind, and very, very considerate, and very hard working guy. And I can sit here instances. Even when I was in that house, there was one instance whereby, Jammeh's normal operation, you don't know who he's gonna go after. There was that day I was there. Khalifa and I sat in the living room until in the morning, because Jammeh wants to eliminate one of the folks, and Khalifa didn't want that, and they had this pull and push, pull and push, pull and push, and he was on the phone trying to convince others not to do it because it was bad. And then when he passed away, we went down to Gambia, and during the burial and the sermon, Imam Fati was there. And in fact, what I'm saying today, Imam broke down crying, and he says, today a lot of people are living in the streets of Gambia thanks to this man, because every time when Imam also spiritually was able to prevail on President Jammeh, whenever Khalifa knows anything, he would call Imam and say, "Hey, Imam, this is what the big man wants to do." And Imam would call him and talk to even Babu Karjata, the former army commander too, was at the burial. He also attests. He says, there was he particularly telegraphed one instance. He says there was an instance that he doesn't want to mention somebody's name, but Jammeh was ready to send his boys to eliminate that guy. And Khalifa knew about it. Khalifa called him and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. But, the fact that if you call him, maybe he's not going to answer his phone line. But what we'll do is call him several times and call my line. If you call my line, I'll walk into his office and say, 'Hey, the army commander is calling you, and he wants to talk to you.' And he says it's urgent." And he says that's what they did. And when Babakar was saying that, and he broke down completely, and he was crying. And I understand where he came from, and what he was trying to telegraph. So I know that, and there's a lot of instances whereby there was issues like that. But Jammeh, having relationship with Jammeh is very murky, and people have their own way of interpreting stuff, and which we respect that. But I was a living witness to things that also happened within his close orbit, and I definitely remember those instances, and I was with him. And there was times whereby even Tuti Fall too, when he passed away, Tuti Fall called me, and we were talking. Tuti Fall, there are instances whereby if Bajinka knows something, he will call Tuti Fall. Tuti Fall will put her rap on the floor and start crawling to Jammeh and say, "I beg you, don't do this. Don't kill this person. If you kill this person, the family is there. The kids are young, blah, blah, blah." And the guy will, eventually give up. But all these things, and when these folks move away, the Kamaras, I remember Kamara, a good guy, Bakari Kamara as well. So these are folks who were prevailing on him. After those guys left, then this whole killing spikes, because there was absolutely no one. There was no guardrails whatsoever, and things started turning for the worst. And that's what I know, and that's what I know about the man. And the family is there. F. Diba and her dad and my dad are good friends back in the days, even before she got married to Bajinka. I mean, they live in Serekunda Bartes, and that relationship was there. Her mom was actually the one. He says, "Sariang, ita farmer ning FDB farmer muteri malidi kabirino." So that relationship is there. I talk to her, all the time. The kids are there doing very well. Mohammed, you know, uh, they went to school. Mohammed turns to be a good athletic guy, and he's going to college. So, I pray that they stay on course and wish them all the best. But that's what I know about the man.
So, do you really think that a lot of these allegations that came out, about Jammeh as being this brute leader, and especially the findings of the TRRC that he gave orders for certain people to be killed, certain individuals to be picked up from their families overnight, or just people being tortured, among other variety of human rights violations that he is alleged to be meted on the people? Because of your experience to people in power, do you believe that those things in fact were true, or you think a lot of those were just flimsy allegations that were made against Jammeh? Because depending on who is looking at it, people say a lot of things. Supporters of Jammeh would say that these individuals are just Jammeh never gave some of these orders. These are power thirsty individuals who are just doing things and accusing Jammeh for it. But we also know individuals like the late Mr. Bajinka Khalifa, who we understood now, or we understand now, that uh, took steps to avoid certain people from being extrajudicially killed, or maimed, or tortured by Jammeh. What is your experience, or what is your assessment of these things that have been put against Jammeh?
As I said, I'm not gonna be a witness to post Bajinka's era and when I left. But as I said, there were several instances whereby you know these operations will happen, and there was also what I understand at the time he did something which is also not applicable in anywhere in the world, right? For example, we heard these TRRCs, a sergeant or a corporal will beat a captain or will beat a colonel. I mean, no, nobody does that. That's a break of decorum. Nobody does that. You don't do that. Okay. But what I know, I mean, this is attestation from Bakari Kamara, the Bajinkas. There was this bar guy, I think is Sambaba. His name is Sambaba. You know, the guy Bunyadabo, the Wasas, even what's his name? Savage. Savage used to be. I know all these people. I mean, we interact. I mean, when Bajinka was the commander and prior TSG. But what I'm trying to say is what I witnessed at that point, living out mile 7. And there are night times at night people would call and people were tipping these high-ranking officers off and say, "Hey, this is what's going on." And I remember one of the ladies at GRTS. I mean, they traveled, something didn't work out. He said that lady was sabotaging their mission, and I was right there in the living room, and she's a very, very prominent lady still now. And she said, "Get rid of her." And that phone call and talking to Sa, I'm okay, and ultimately to what's that, Tutti File getting involved and all that stuff. I remember those. I remember times of another person as well, and usually when we do, I mean, you can see the emotional toll that takes on. Bajinka, and when we were there, sometimes he would put his rifle uh, underneath his chair, and that's what it is. I mean, people tend to think that working for him, but also the danger and the risk and the emotional and psychological toll that takes on individuals. I mean, he has this big RPG. I know all that because I was there with him, and sometimes one time there was a team that came at mile 7. This I'm saying, 2 a.m. in the morning, and FD wake me up and say, "Hey, get up, get up." I got up, and they were telling him to come outside. They want to have a discussion with him, and he insisted. And I can hear him scream and say, "If you don't leave my door, I'm gonna kill you guys, and I'm gonna kill myself. We can all lose." And they left. And after they left, we sat in the living room. He was explaining to me. He says, uh, these people, man, this is what they do. To him, they want to come with me. They want to come over here and they want to have a discussion with me. There was absolutely nothing good about it, and I don't want. So, and we all struggle with those type of situations if they happen, because everyone within the household live on edge because we don't know what's next. So those are things that I witnessed. And
Mhm.
and Jammeh was very, very good at creating some type of disunity among the ranks, right? So if you, what we call in the military, uh, order and discipline, and you take the orders come from the top down, and you obey and complain later, but there was none, because he will tell somebody to do that that's genuine to you, but the order came directly. I remember one phone call where the man was arguing saying that they said you sent them. He said, "No, I didn't send them." And he says, "No, he's the one who did it, because I know these people." Right. So these are instances that happens over time. And it's a lot of things. People don't trust each other. People who are working, and there are few who look out for each other. They know something, they will say something to each other, and they are close. They have this close relationship. But I was there in Brikama when Imam Fati broke down, and also Babukar Jata explained instances. This was after I left. And he was kind of saying this instant, this instant, this instant. So, people can be joy, but someone staying what he did before. Yes. Your dad used to tell me too. He says, "Nyolong nyolong balia
Mhm.
masibolo wood, but ni moy kukendo." It's awful, right? So
Yeah.
so basically that's what I'm attesting to
Yeah.
today. That these are things I can witness that the guy does, and he has a psychological toll on him at that moment. If he's sleeping, sometimes he will just have these bad dreams. And that was right there. I was right there. So these are things that I witnessed, and I wanted to make sure that folks know that don't judge.
Yeah.
Don't judge. I mean, it's been a very tough 22 years for folks that are close to him, that work for him, that stood by him, and at the end, you know, those people lost their lives. They were not treated well. They were imprisoned. They were beaten, and their family took a big hit, and they have been suffering up to date. So I'm not going to dismiss that at all.
So moving to the United States, and you made the conscious decision from this colleague that you knew, your supervisor, whose son was already in the Navy, influenced you to make the decision to join the Navy. And at the time, which my assumption is, there's not a lot of information, or at least an understanding of how that is going to influence your life generally, because I'm sure you ended up spending several years in the Navy. It has impacted your life positively, and you've had some really profound experiences while being in the Navy. I would like you to walk us through that experience so far. What were some of the highlights of your time in the Navy? How has that shaped you into becoming the man that you are? But also, how do you reconcile with the idea that United States Army is great, offers such huge opportunity and life-changing opportunities to a great deal of people, especially immigrants, but also is the ethical question of like, this is an army that does a lot of things also around the world, right? And how do you the potential of losing yourself in that serving in this army? And I think for me that's a moral conundrum. As I still wrestle with that. I'm like, okay, cool. Like just this morning, as we're sitting down, we know of what happened in Venezuela, right? And
Uh-huh.
so to be part of this institution again is one thing, to want opportunities and pursue a career, but how do you wrestle with that existential question of morality, of being part of an institution that does a lot of good stuff, but also a great deal of bad stuff around the world too. If you would walk us through that a little bit.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So when I joined, I went through what, 4 presidents or 5 presidents, and you can see the strong institution and backdrop of how this country evolves in terms of democracy and all that. I think when I joined, that was during Clinton's time, and subsequently George Bush and Obama, and here we are. But here is the thing that I would say: when I joined, I did not know much about the military, and I think I was like one of the few with Ibrahim Amane, and there was an Aliu Khan, who joined the service. So we were the very first. So my first assignment after I joined, I did all my training. The training was in Great Lakes. Then I went to school, trade school. Then ultimately, I had my ultimate duty station. So the duty station was in Yokosuka, Japan. So I was on a frigate. It's a fighter, ship. We have about 320 personnel, only males, and it's missile guided. And we were there. Subsequently, I believe 2 years later or 3 years later, there was 9/11. That was my first deployment. In support of Operation Enduring Freedom. So we had our battleship. The battleship comprises of the carrier, few ships and 2 destroyers, 2 cruisers, and 2 frigate, which one of the frigate that I was attached to. So we went out there and we had all the F-16s. We got them and we started bombarding the coast of Afghanistan against the Taliban. So we did that, and because they considered that an attack and all that. So, but I think one of the times that I struggled was one of the deployments was during Ramadan. And I struggled with the faith, and I stand watch. As you stand watch. You get 6 on, 6 off, 6 on, 6 off. Where some need to sleep, some needs to drive the ship, and someone needs to propel the combat system operation, drive the ship, and all that. So we split the crew. So, but in between, there comes Ramadan. I have to fast, and now how do I navigate through that channel? They serve meals in the morning, in the afternoon, and evening meals, but in between what they call midnight rations. Folks who are going to watch after midnight, they serve them. So I said I wanted to talk to the command master chief, and I said I would like to have a meeting with him. I went down to have a meeting with him. I said, this is what I don't have a problem going on watch. I don't have all these things, but I want to be able to practice, and I also want to have my meal. He says, no, Marong, that's not a problem. That's not a problem, So he says, go talk to, the other person who is in charge. He says, talk to him. And when I talked to him, this guy was a Filipino guy, and he also had very strong spiritual, and he says, we didn't know that, we didn't really know that, but as moving forward, we'll make sure, Marong, your meal and everything is ready. You let us know, and they made a point. Even if I'm on duty and on watch on the station, they will find someone to relieve me, to come eat my meal, to pray, and go back up. And I did that the entire deployment cycle. Okay, though I didn't pray eat. I pray in a closed environment. I did, and I eat what I got, and I move on. That is it. But one of the unique things is I also take advantage of opportunities that the military offers. Right? There were extensions of universities, even in Japan. I enrolled in that. University of Maryland. I did courses. In between, it breaks down. I go to, but I continue. There was a pattern that I continue. Ultimately, after my sea duty, I had a rotation. So you do sea, you come to shore, sea, shore. So that's how the rotation goes. So I came I've been to Seattle many times, and time when I was ready for rotation, they said, we have recruiting duty. I said, recruiting duty? I said, yeah, where? They say, Portland. I said, you know what? I've been to Portland. I've been to the coast. I think I'm going to like it. Give it to me. So I came in. Ultimately, this was back in 2002. I came to Vancouver, but it's been always my goal that I need to go back to school. So when I came in, I settled down. I was recruiting people. I was meeting my quotas. I decided to enroll. I went to Washington State University of in Vancouver. I took classes there, and I enrolled with City University because they offer night classes. So I go to class from 5 to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, and I pick up full time. Was very motivated. Then I came down for half time. That's how I continue doing my education. But the good part about it was paid 100%. It was through tuition assistance. I have to get a good grade and maintain the Navy pace. I took advantage of that, and I had my bachelor's degree in project management. And after I took a break, I have my first child, and I continue to do my master's. So I did that in organizational leadership. But Navy paid all that. We're lucky. I don't take student loans. It's all paid off, and I took advantage of it. And today, I had GI Bill. I'll pass the GI Bill to my daughter, who is going to Spelman College. She wants to be a lawyer like you. Next year, she's going to graduate. But I passed that along, So that is what I always want to remind people. It was not always about me. There were difficult times, especially when my second daughter was born. I had to go on a deployment, 9 months deployment. We did a pre-op training in Fort Lewis with the Army. I think it's 181 sustainment division or something like that. But we were embedded with them. So luckily, when I left here, the training was about 2 months. The day that we conclude training, that's the day she was born. I had a chance to come home for 2 weeks. But after that, I have to push forward. It's very difficult leaving a very young baby 2 weeks and you're forging ahead on deployment. So this is some of the complexities, and military folks deal with it besides just wearing the uniform. You are detached from your family, and you're going out there, and you're going for a certain number of months without seeing them. So I did that, and I did that multiple times. Right? Maybe during my career, I did 4 deployments, not just 1, 2 times I was with the Army, and the last deployment was in Singapore, which is on a Navy base. It was great, but those are things that we did, and I encourage folks. And even yesterday, someone came to the shop. I was talking to them, and I asked him, very positive young man. I asked him what he's doing about his life, and he told me, and we had this long drawn conversation. First of all, he said, no, 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 no. But after when we spoke, he says, I'll give a thought. I wanted to come back and see you someday, and we're going to chat some. I said, yes, that if I had the opportunity, I tell this to everyone. It's not bad. Join. Every parent. If you have a young man who wants to pursue it, do it. And kudos to Gambians. They are realizing this, and a lot of people are doing this now. And I don't have anything positive. Everything was positive. There is a young man, Tamsir Job and Modu Sise. They are all out there. They're Modu Buddha in Japan right now. You got young folks, Cherno who just graduated, and he's in Fallon, Nevada with his wife. So these are stories, and I would like people to talk to them. Ask them what are the pros and cons. I was working. I was working a full-time job. I was working a part-time job. I was living with 6 other people as roommates. I pay rent, but I don't sleep there. So I felt that what is the opportunity? What is the end in sight? How do I build on my career? And that's where this whole Navy comes in. And I'm saying I'm very proud what I accomplished with the Navy. And through that, when I retired, I used my VOTEC benefits, I went for my PMP certification. When you were coming here, I said, hey, I'm busy. I'm studying for my PMP exam.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. And I did my PMP exam. I'm a project management professional, and I work for Department of Energy here in Bonneville Power Administration. And I started off at a scheduling center where we schedule energy and transmission across the United States, and it's an operation center. We work shift, and I moved to trading, and I moved where we schedule energy day ahead. I did all that. Now I'm in operation technology, whereby we build infrastructure, architecture, whereby, the world is changing to be competitive. And so in case something happens, how do we protect our infrastructure and be able to deliver for our customers? Because we provide clean energy within Pacific Northwest, Wyoming, Montana, Nevada, Idaho, and some part of South Dakota, North Dakota, and California, ISO. So that's what I do. And currently, that's what I've been doing. I've been working with Bonneville Power for almost 18 years now. So, I mean, great place to work, great people, and I admire them a lot. So, in terms of power, infrastructure, energy, I've seen real time whereby lights went off and we had to shift power and ensure that the energy is replaced and schedule and get to the customer right on spot. So those are ones that I did, and that's where I'm at today, as a person and as a guy who came from, a tiny village in Fonyi,
Mm-hmm.
who was not spoon fed, but I believe in hard work. And sometimes I think the journey is tough, but what guides me is my faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's my faith and the willingness and the persistence to go to forge forward, even though when the odds are against me, but I really, really don't think I need to give up. And I keep marching. I need to keep climbing. No matter how the mountain is tall, I keep climbing the mountain. And eventually, if you keep climbing the mountain, you will reach where you need to be at. And if you call it an ultimate goal, so be it. But what I'm trying to say is that's what my life story is about.
Thank you very much, Sariang. We have a lot of people watching both live on YouTube and also on Facebook. I have over 100 people on my virtual studio right now, and I would like to say to all of you, thank you all very much for being here. For those of you on Facebook, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel to subscribe what we're doing. But Sariang, talking about YouTube, you also are a co-host on the People by the People show with Musa Jeng and Coach Pasam Bajao, two individuals that are very widely admired in our Gambian political struggle, especially Gambians in the diaspora. Their voices are very loud, and they've been part of the quest to pedestal the Gambia on a path that is more responsive, that is more progressive, that is more economically viable, but most importantly, to elevate the country out of poverty. And you've also, in some ways, been part of that struggle. Now, I would like to talk to you. At what point do your political awareness or orientation, so to speak, has gotten to a level where you become committed to the idea of political public commentary, so much that you cross paths with the likes of Musa Jeng, the likes of Coach Pasam Majau. I remember also prior to 2016 election, you were involved a lot in political writings and national security writings on your Facebook, so much so that people are like, oh, Sariang for say palas ni labang, Sariang fala for say la Gambia labang, and people are prone to make this kind of assessments once individuals have interest. But I think what is significant is you've been a loud voice in terms of the struggle prior to 2016 elections and then post 2016 as well. How did this come about? When did you decide that you are going to be part of the quest for social justice for our country?
That's a very interesting question. So I always like to remind my cousins, if I say my cousins, the yellow cousins, that now we have Facebook, right? But before Facebook, Gambians around the world used to discuss. They had their political divergent views on what we call Gambia L. That's why I know Musa Jeng and Coach Pasamba Jau. There was no social media, there was no WhatsApp. And subsequently, late George Sarr from Atlanta built another post called Gambia Post. We had these discussions, Jammeh used to monitor this and all that. We had divergent views. And since that time, people were very, very passionate about what was happening, and people were not buying on the military rule. There was a lot of discussions on it, and we had discussions. And Musa and I and Coach have attended a lot of, whenever I come to for a vacation here, I made it a point to go to July 4th, and there are people who are invited, and they had discussions about the plight of our country. But since that time too, I believe in human rights, and I never was, interested in these abusive tendency that Jammeh inflict on our fellow Gambians. So I pretty much aligned with the thinking, and we all did what we can, leading to 2016. We even sat on, platform, Fatu Network. When Fatu Kamara built that network, it was a source of fundraising for the coalition, hours and hours and hours, talking to everyone, pledging, getting that money, collaborating with GDF and all that stuff, to close seas, the Jukas and all that. They were all part of it. And even Ben, I did a lot of program with Ben, so it was a fight that didn't start today, and it was deep, it was personal, because there were people who along the way passed away, right? They lost lives, they lost everything. There are mothers who are widows up to today. There are kids who are grown up in a household, they don't know their parents. So these are things that, if we think about it, it take a toll on all of us if we reflect on who we are and when we came back. Gambia didn't know this, as you asked me during Jawara time, barely. But the worst thing that happened was 1981 coup d'etat, and a lot of people were killed. But besides that, they don't kidnap people at night. They don't kill and all that. So I think over time the perception grows, and there was a resistance that would build, and ultimately Jammeh was very successful. Every time when we had this thing, there was this unity. But finally 2016, I think Gambians were ready, and we all came together, regardless of what your political leaning is, and we all got together, raise funds, lend our voices, talk to people, motivate people that this is the moment, this is the time that they need to vote him out, and they vote him out. And now we have Barrow, right? But boy, you look at the trend here. Next month, Gambia will be 61 years old since it attains independence. Out of that 61 years old, we have 3 presidents. One president served the entire half of the time of our independence. The second president came in and ruled almost 48% or 42% or whatever the percentage is, 22 years. Now we got someone who needs to serve 10 years, and he wants to prolong on. And if we're going to talk about politics and the structure, what is the end in sight here? I mean, if you think about 61 years, how many presidents? This country that we are all in right now, they had about 6 presidents. So I think these are things that, if we're talking, regardless of who is your favorite guy, but think about things that we could do differently. Let's think us outside the box. Let's bring perspectives that are unique, but also which are in line with modern democracies. And I think that is very, very important to me. And Musa and Coach, over time, we build a relationship. We're like brothers. Whenever I go to Atlanta, I have the pleasure to meet Musa Jeng and his family, and Coach, He's a great guy. I mean, behind the scene, we speak, we advise each other. You've seen it. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye on the platform, but we have respect for each other. Yes, and I think we need to continue to instill civility into a political discourse, right? Coach, provide a perspective, be an activist. Musa Jeng plays the devil advocate, one very passionate about the country. And on the human side, when you know the guy, he's a great guy. I mean, now the negative comments that they made, you see on the social media, I can vouch for him. I can vouch for him. He's a great guy, and he cares about people. So that I know, and I can say that, right? So over time, we had relationships. He met Sonko. You know, when you were in Atlanta, when we had this eat at his hall, I introduced you to him. So this is who he is. The wife is very, very pleasant, Umi, and I met the daughter and his boys as well. So great, and he met my boys as well. So and my boy and my daughter. So this is where we build, and that's what we need
Mhm.
as people, as Gambians. And what I found very, very fascinating, Ibrahima, is sometimes you know, we tend to link wisdom with likability, right? If I don't like this guy, I'm not going to listen to what he
Yeah.
offers, even though he might say stuff that might benefit you. But because of you think that likability equates to wisdom, and that's a fundamental flaw that we all think. And we need to be able to listen to folks and what they have to offer, the intellectual curiosity, have a discussion. Because at the end of the day, if you're not more interested about ego and power, you're interested about the truth. If you are wise and wanted to learn something, not to profess some type of righteousness, indignation, I really think you should be open to have a discussion with people, even if you don't see eye to eye. And
Right.
that has been a model, and that's what I believe in. And I think we need to kind of learn from each other. It's very, very important.
I totally agree with you, Sariang. I think, a lot of our national discourse, especially political discourse, are very siloed in a way that we don't want to see eye to eye. Even if, that somebody holds a platform and you think individuals there are either biased or prejudicial or they're preferential, in your thought or in your thinking or in your perspective, as to certain political leaning. We don't want to see those people. And I always give the example, even here, you see Democrats going to predominantly Republican platforms like Fox News, for example, or Republican Party members going to what many consider as very left leaning political, news platforms. Because if you don't come to me to understand where I'm coming from, to understand my experiences, to understand what influences my political thinking, then how can you convince me to come to your table? How can you convince me to vote for you? Even if you don't convince me, but how do you understand the uniqueness of my perspective? Because every human being has a unique perspective, have a different perspective that is deeply influenced by their experiences, that is deeply influenced by where they come from, their social setting, their environment, all these things. And so the lazy way of engaging is, oh no, we're not going to talk to Musa Jeng because Musa Jeng is UMC. We're not going to talk to Sariang because Sariang is UDP. We're not going to talk to Ibrahima because Ibrahima is PDOIS. And we are more than that. We are better than that as a society. We're so grown. Our civic and political awareness is getting to a point where some of the most uncomfortable conversations are those we should in fact have, to be able to do it with civility and respect. But Sariang, I'm also curious for you to talk about this briefly. In prior to 2016 elections, I think all of us were supporting the coalition when we were going to run against Jambe. And in fact, at some point, I don't remember you ever writing to publicly declare your membership to United Democratic Party, but I think it was pretty evident that you were supporting UDP at some point. And I really want to know what influenced that in terms of identifying with what UDP was doing, because you were doing a lot of what looks like UDP supporting messages on your Facebook in those days, and then eventually, I think what we now know is that again, you've not come out to say you are a member of this member movement, but it seems to a lot of people that you are a member, or at least you approve the candidacy of Talib Ahmed Ben Suda. Let's get to this conversation. What is happening
Yes.
with Sariang Marong?
Thank you very much. Just for clarity,
Okay.
I'm a sympathizer of UDP, and
Okay.
maybe you don't know, you were young, but Dr. Cisse, Sirip Cisse,
Mm-hmm.
who married my sister Mba, Doctor was a prominent founder of UDP, as maybe you don't know, but when UDP was attacked,
I
Denton
remember that.
Bridge,
Yeah.
all that, yep, he's the one, you know, he has Kololi Clinic, and he's the one who treat them. And
When
the
our dad had an accident, he was there. I remember you guys came then when
yes,
our
yes, yeah.
dad
I
had
mean,
an accident. Mhm.
he has a very good relationship with your dad through
Yeah.
my dad. So they because doctors spend most of his time in Sinted, with my dad, and in fact that's how during that time the old people, they have someone, and a gentleman who comes to the house and very attached to them. At some point, they treat that individual as a family member.
Mhm.
And basically, what they will do is they would want that individual to choose within their inner circle and marry someone. And that's what happened. So your dad and my dad and doctor knows each other. And when I was not even in 1996, when they had meetings, your mom, my mom, Auntie Kadi, they all come together and they cook findi for these people, because doctor was very jovial. He knows all of them. Binana and Jele, Sadul Bemine Kelantoli. Then they all cook findi for their rally and all that stuff. Lawyer Dabo himself, lawyer's older brother, Dr. Momodu Dabo, uh, you know, uh, his nephew, Mustafa lives in California. Mustafa married my niece, doctor's daughter, Fantagal. So
Wow.
this is the relationship in there. And even on one of the meetings, interviews Lawyer Dabo had with Kerfatu, when he was talking about why Gambia should not withdraw Batamidu's candidacy, but even if they withdrew it, they should replace with another Gambian, because there are a lot of prominent Gambians in there. During that interview, he invoked Alaji's name and he says, "We have someone there." So we had a relationship. Fenda and all of them, they all know each other. With
Mhm.
Fantagal, they grew up, around each other, and this is a family. When his brother passed away 2 weeks ago in Seattle, I went down there because I know that guy. I know Kanseku. Kanseku even came. He's very passionate about music. He was the one who even started this whole rapping in Mandinka before. So when Karamu was born in 2013, he actually came and performed here, and
Wow.
he, yeah. So we had this relationship. So the fact that I am a Democrat, I believe in progressiveness. And the fact that at some time there are times for evolution. Political parties are institutions. They are not built for one person. And the reason we've seen this over time, PPP, what happened? When Jawara moved on, PPP is no more like PPP before. They tried to revive it in any means, they could not do it. So I really believe that Talib Ahmed Bensouda, I met him in person. He's a pleasant guy. I don't know him. I don't know him personally, but the interaction that I had with him when I was in Gambia, and that time he was a mayor for UDP. So if all the great things that we say about him, why wouldn't I say the same great things about him today? Just because he formed his party. I'm not going to do that. And the same thing with Lawyer. I was there in last year in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta. In fact, the UDP folks reached out to me to be an MC there. I went out there. I was at in Seattle.
Yeah.
But I think our country is at a stage whereby this infighting, tagging someone, making accusation about someone, putting a litmus test against someone, his loyalty and where it lies. I think that is wrong. That is wrong. Because today, no matter what, Ibrahim Adiba, I know him. It's not like Marlon. I know him. He lives in Seattle. This Badibunka and Badibunka relationship is Mando. He was part of UDP when he was 16. He did not receive any paycheck, but he was loyal and did what he can. But today, if he decides he needs to move on, Ibrahim, it's not my place, it's not your place, and it's nobody's place who is watching this to tag him as someone who is disingenuous. I think that undercuts our message, our core message, and our inclusiveness as people. And I have a problem with that. And that's why I am silent, because I've been watching. And I always reach out to people where I can, and I say, you need to knock it off. Because if I say Ibrahima is good, today, if Ibrahima, if Ibrahima leaves or Ibrahima emerge, or Ibrahima is ambitious because he wants to charter a different course, I'm not going to go all in. Regardless, you are not even my cousin. I'm not going to do that. I mean, we gotta understand sometimes, Ibrahim. We draw familiars, and that's where we build relationships, and because those relationships somehow translate to predictability, and in essence, predictability is stability. Right? That's why we're comfortable with this, we're comfortable with this. But Ibrahim, I think where the conversation needs to go is there is a lot of stuff happening in that country. And what I believe in, if I'm part of an institution, I spoke to you about my career, my path, from coming to America all the way where I'm at. There is absolutely professional and personal growth, upward mobility. And sometimes people are intrigued one way or the other. They really felt that, they couldn't grow within certain institution, and they want to chart a pathway. What is bad in that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tag anyone that someone is a betrayer because that individual decide to move on. Maybe that individual, with his new emergence, that individual needs a new environment. He needs new voices that are going to propel him to where his goals are. And this is something that it's studied, it's tested, and it's out there.
And it's basic too. It's a basic tenet too, Sariang. And I say this most of the time, it gets me in trouble. Again, you always say your cousins always get upset, but it also gets me into trouble because I always say, look, Hussein, with all of his brilliance, the leader of the UDP, is a political figure. All he wants is power. I think it's okay if individuals in his party also wants power and they don't feel as though they can have access to that power through being within the institution of the United Democratic Party that they leave. But what we're seeing now is a lot of back and forth. UDP folks trying to characterize or tend Talib and the UMC as disingenuous figures of, betrayers, as they would term them. And it seems Talib's figures also want to respond. And so we are in this situation where Barrow is perhaps sitting down in his corner just cheering because he knows this works in his favor. To have a disunited opposition party or opposition works a lot for him. What is your observation in terms of why this is still the case? Why is this constant obsession about opposition figures going back and forth, as it is seen mostly between UDP and UMC? I think it may be time, or it's important for them to move on and focus on each of their parties. and focus on the reality of what we are facing, which is the issue of the current government of President Adama Barrow.
I wish I have an answer for you. This is what we all wish, because there is a lot happening. A lot happening. And then, Musa, Ibrahim, what I found very, very troubling. They are pictures of these individuals. They had good relationship in the past. They sat down, they speak highly of each other. They are there. We can prove it. So today, just because they all path away, that should not be a reason to go after each other. And they can give me thousands of reasons why it's happening, but I don't buy off on it. I really don't. I think we could do better. As you rightfully said, that country has a lot of challenges where we could talk about and providing an alternate solution, how we're going to solve and hopefully convince majority of the voters to gravitate towards our agenda. So tell me, what is going to do if UMC goes in there and castigate their parent party where they branch off, or vice versa? UDP goes every day, daily. They wake up in the morning, nothing but going after UMC. Now, the person who is benefiting from that is Barrow. And we know, we can say Barrow is unpopular. But what is the alternate solution post-Barrow? I think that's how you convince voters. If I say agriculture, we got Jahali Pachar. Now, what is our vision? What is our vision? They could not work and bring Jahali Pachar to fruition for the benefit of our masses. We've seen a system that is built to benefit few individuals, Ibrahim, at the detriment, while majority of the people are denied the basic necessities. We have an opportunity to speak to that, to highlight that. What will be our vision? What will be our goal? But no, we're not. We go by personality. And any day we do that, we are missing the mark. And I'm going to tell you, man, we always say this, you cannot be nasty and at the same time be needy. I'll repeat this. Whether it's in a political arena, whether you are a businessman, you cannot continue to mistreat people and think that there's not going to be no consequences. So you got to think about that. You got to think about that. You got to think about decency is the price what you get. So it's not that if you are decent or if you elevate your political discussion, it's not that you are timid, but politics is a game. You get out there, you persuade people. I have more policies. I have more vision. These are my goals. This is where we are. And this is what I can do to get us out on the current predicament. If you're not doing that, everything is about personality. I think what's happening is the Gambian voters are going to lose. And ultimately, the current political environment will be harnessed. And they will have a lot of wind on their back for us to remain in the current status quo. And this is not a dig, and this is the truth. And you cannot be nasty, man, and at the same time be needy. I want people to listen to this very carefully. Even on voters, if people share different perspective that doesn't align with your political philosophy, you don't go out there and attack them. Yeah. And when voting comes around, you want to be Mr. Nice? They all remember this. Be careful. Be careful. And this comes on both sides. We need to elevate our conversation. And I talk about the time when there was a lot of camaraderie. We don't talk about tribe. And I'm going to tell you, I even forgot about that. Even in Brikama, your dad's best friend was their brothers, Babambo Swa and Basute. Basute and Babambo used to work in cooperative. They were higher ups. There were a lot of people that they employed when cooperative was at Canifing. We don't go back and talk about all the. I have friends. The best friend that I can call today, George Bass. He's a Catholic. He's a Christian. He's my brother. Matthias Greywood. He's my brother. Peter Mendy. He's in Puyallup. He's my brother. There is nothing that I could not discuss with Peter, George Bass, and Matthias. I trust him. I can entrust him with my family because over time we build a relationship. But today I felt that is missing. And we need to dial back. We need to bring this conversation home. If someone is good 2 years ago, that same person should be good in 2026. I don't believe in that for a bit, Ibrahima. If I cannot say good things about Ibrahima, I'll keep my mouth short. I'm not going to go talk about negative stuff about you 24/7, 7 days a day. Who are we? And this is a scripture. This is in the scripture as a practicing Muslim. So we keep saying this, but our behaviors and our mindset hasn't changed. We continue on the same path. And for this instant gratification, somehow we wanted to switch our behaviors. Ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work. So let's get our ducks in a row. Let's treat each other with respect. That's what's gonna win the hearts and minds of Gambians. Not the negativity every morning. You get on Facebook, you see it. People are out here, they're quick to judge people. You are aligned with this, you're aligned. Here's the question that I have. If someone aligned with UMC, what is the problem? Invite him to debate with him. That's what I'm asking. If someone joined UDP, it's not to castigate him. Invite him why that person joined UDP. What intrigued him to join the UDP in the first place? Not castigate him, not calling him names, not intimidate him, not harass him. That's totally uncalled for.
Sariang, that's very moving and very profound, and I hope that people really take heed of these advices because I think it's important. I've said this to somebody. I said I think these elections, unless we change our attitude and our means of engagement, I think it's going to get really, really nasty for several reasons. And you put it very brilliantly. You cannot be nasty and then come back and ask people for their votes. It's not going to happen. We know what happened in 2021. I think what people are seeking. Actually, earlier before I started talking with you, I was doing a TikTok live. Over 100 young people were with me. It was crazy. And this young girl came on and said, I have an opinion, but if I share it, some people will be in my inbox attacking me. But even the thought of that in itself is crazy. It should never have been that way. People should be allowed to critically analyze every political party in the Gambia. That should not be unique to any one party, And when we talk about this, they're like, yeah, you're doing this for clicks. It's not about clicks. These are important. If I show you some of the messages that I receive, usually when we have conversations like that, it's insane, and I just open them and ignore them because I'm like, if you know who I am, you know very well I don't really care. I come from a household where we're allowed to speak our minds, we're allowed to interrogate issues. That's my education. That's literally my whole perspective about life. So we are going to continue to do this. If you show me who you are, that tells me who you are. I better believe it. But you're not going to drag me with you. I don't do that at all. And so, Sariang,
Ibrahim, I must add this. I said you cannot be nasty at the same time be needy. But decency. And if I say decency, meaning thou shalt not speak ill of each other. Thou shalt not castigate. Thou shalt not drag someone down. Decency is the price you pay for access or support. That is clearly defined in social psychology. It's there. It says decency. It's psychological reciprocity. If you talk and give me credit, I will be bound by instincts or instant gratification that I will give you the same. That is just true. But you cannot continue to go onto the same path. If the path doesn't work in the past, what do you think the path is going to work in the present? It's not going to work, my brother.
So, obviously, besides power, which is one of the reasons why, even though UMC, this is going to be critical, UMC left UDP because they want power. Well, how that comes out either in one person or in a collective, that's the underlying issue why they left, because UDP as a party is unwilling, through, as they call it, their democratic process, to move away from Dabo. So they have a Dabo candidacy for going into the next elections. And then people that do not agree with, including Lamin J. Dabo, eventually left. Lamin J. Dabo is with NUP. In fact, I'm going to talk to him next week. And then Talib and some members like Ibrahim Adiba and Menteng, who is both of our family, formed the UMC. And so my question really is, obviously, the underlying issue is power. Everybody understands that. But what is it that you identify with UMC that you think is a systemic difference or a variance in terms of what is available from UDP? Because you have to realize too, these are UDP members that identified with UDP and then left UDP from UMC. And there's always a risk of UMC being a continuation, both in system and also in policy or in ideology, to the parent party that they came out of.
Okay.
What do you think is different about UMC? Why should people, in fact, consider them different from UDP in terms of what they engage, in terms of their messaging, in terms of their political ideology, in terms of what they offer for 2026?
I can't speak on those details, but what I know is, UDP is very formidable. I mean, we know that they had scores, they had structures in place and all that. And honestly, without a doubt, we all believe that, come 2026, UDP stand a chance. But the fraction also concerns me. And Ibrahima, you have to be able to tackle issues. I mean, if these people have been together for many, many years, I think sometime when this fraction emerges, I think behind the scene, there should be a lot of negotiation to ensure that where we are today, the situation doesn't arise. And we all know that. We always say this on our platform. If there is not a united front against Barrow 2026, he's going to win. I mean, and this is based on statistics. I'm yet to see anyone who convinced me that somehow there is numbers out there that's going to put them on the top. Because 2026, UDP got over 200,000 votes. But that did not put them at the top. They did not. It was not enough. Even the core base was motivated.
They said they were cheated.
Cheated. There was irregularities, but it was the verdict of the people, and that we can have a different debate about that on another day. But there was, even here there is irregular. But I think for the most part, the voters voted, and they choose Barrow over UDP. And
Soljai said this very well. He said, if you accept the premise that you were cheated in elections, it seizes you of an opportunity for you to self-assess and self-reflect on your means of engagement, on your messaging, on your leadership, and all these things. And he had a barrage of attacks from...
but here is what Saul is saying, though. And I think that's why I always say, growth exposes you to different perspectives. I mean, from what Mr. Njai is saying, I get the gist of it. But when he said that, he talks about community, public engagement on social media, on other platform, on people joining. What is their response? I mean, even if Saul said that, what would have been an underlying response to what he put out? The premise of his argument. You have to look at that and analyze it. He was not just talking, he was talking, what will be a message? Is there a fundamental change in your quest to attract new majority? Is that happening? That is subject to interpretation. And I think that's what Saul is trying to drive at. Instead of getting all this negative stuff, analyze what he's trying to say. What happened in 2021? Did we drive? What is our messaging like? Do we focus on personality or highlighting the inefficiencies within the government? And how do we draw a contrast against the current status quo? And I think, and how do we approach in a bigger scale, how do we approach those voters who might not be a typical UDP voter, who might be voting for Barrow last year based on one reason or another? How do we engage them and their support for them come to our camp? I think that's what Mr. Ngai is saying. And I think people need to heed to that. You don't react. You listen carefully. And I know there is a lot of this whole righteousness propaganda and all that stuff, but who is more righteous? We did our part. I said for the people, by the people. Musa Jangana have argument about UDP. I did my part. No one can take that away from me. No one. I go in and participate where I can. No one can take that away from me. My mom, Cook, and the relationship we had with Lawyer Dabo and all that stuff, no one can take that away from me. They can't erase history. But what I'm trying to say is, in fact, I will just tell you, in September when I was in Atlanta, this question came in. There was a young lady within the mix, and I think her last name is Ndong or something. She took a mic on the town hall and asked a question. She said, I listened to the speeches, and I watch all of you on the stage here. Very pleasant. Your demeanor is very, very welcoming. But whenever they say UDP, they tend to associate with certain individuals. And those individuals, they don't have the pleasant persona as far as, public relation is concerned.
Yeah.
Boch Sedika, was the diaspora chair, and he pick up the mic and the usual thing, and he says, those are, and the young lady frame it, there is a silent majority. And Boch says there is absolutely not. People who wants to vote against UDP will vote against UDP regardless. Yeah. So the young lady doesn't feel that Boch addressed the question. And she asked again as a follow-up. And, same. So I said, excuse me. And I said, I wanted to ask the question. I took the mic. Mr. Dabo was there. And I said, I think Mr. Dabo, as the party leader, to today's young lady, because she is saying she doesn't have a home. And she honestly believes that UDP can resurrect Gambia from the current predicament. There goes, she did not say in explicit terms that she's an undecided voter, but through her words, she's saying, I'm going to be inclined to support UDP. So I said, Mr. Dabo, I want you to answer the young lady's question and my question. What are you doing in terms of those people who doesn't have the pleasant PR persona, who shouldn't be the face of UDP? and who are not the protege or the conduit of a message that should aspire folks who are on the sideline to come on board. And Mr. Dabo, he's a good man, and he took and he answered the question, and the lady said she was very, very satisfied with Mr. Dabo's response. And I told him both right there. I said I'm not a stranger. You are not bigger than me in UDP, and Mr. Dabo is standing right there, and I want Dabo to acknowledge that. And Dabo said yes, it's true. It's true. Dab Sariang is part of UDP family and everything else. But here is why the reason I'm saying because of the fact that I think there was a missed moment when Mr. Sonya raised these fundamental questions. And instead of hitting and addressing it appropriately, we attach it with a negative connotation.
Yeah. And it's mostly same individuals, and I continue to say this, and I think a lot of people miss it. Is UDP as a party is great. A lot of us where we come from, there's a lot of our upbringing and our formative years, and as we even grew up, that we were involved in UDP in some shape, way, or form, right? And so there is always few individuals who I think paint the party in bad light, and those individuals continue to do this even though they said it's on their own individual behalf. It's not the party, but I think the party also, I mean, don't do much to hold them accountable, to tame them, to make them understand that politics is about aggregate, it's about the numbers. There are a lot of people who wish to identify, who wish to speak their minds about the political situation, but they are afraid of how they are going to be attacked, or how their thoughts or their perceptions are going to be received. And that should not be the case. I think we should reach out to each other. We should be open to diverging opinions and conversations and politics of difference, and then we'll see eye to eye on issues. But Sarian, to wrap this, it's been absolutely wonderful. It's over 2 hours. You and I could go over and over again. It's crazy, right? It doesn't even seem like it. But you have a business in Vancouver. You are, ex-military turned business guy. Perhaps, I mean, also we talked about this in the beginning. You've always been interested in business because the household you come from, there are a lot of people who are involved in business as well. But you also have a non-profit in Vancouver, and I want you to really talk to us what this is about. What sort of business are you involved in, and how important is this for the community that you serve? And also, what is your non-profit about?
So the business is Vancouver International Market. It's an African shop. I mean, I sell all kind of goodies, and I would like those watching this program. You gotta support and patronize your Badibunka guy. So I wear different hats, right? This is a shop that's been here since 2015. So there are folks that came through that I employ. I mean, folks who came from back way, and we have to support each other. And I have folks, mainly it benefits immigrants, right? So not per se Gambians, but sometimes I have to share the pie, right? So it's not all going towards Gambians. It has to go towards certain individuals who come out there and who I really felt their morals and their vision aligns with mine, and we need to synchronize and ensure that there is no breakdown as far as how I met my business objectives on day-to-day basis. That's very, very key to me. So it's been here. We have a lot, and lately we developed a meat market in the back, and you've seen me cut the meat and all that stuff. So on my typical day, I work 15, 16 hours. So when I get up for Fajr prayer, I do that. I come downstairs, I do my day job. When I log off from my day job, I have an employee. My wife also helps out. I go relieve them. I get there, the store closes at 8:30. But anything you order, if you are within the 50 states of the United States, I can ship it to you. Even meat. I do custom cuts. And I'm telling you, sometimes they see me on this. I am passive. In fact, today, if I'm done, I'm gonna be at my store. The employee's there right now, but I really felt an attachment to that business. I like it, and there are folks that comes out weekends. We gather, we drink attire, we talk about politics. So if you're watching this, and you're passionate about supporting your fellow Gambian and your fellow Baribunka guy, please, by all means, I can ship anywhere. I use Alaska cargo. The young man in Fallon wants to buy a whole lamb. I cut it, I package it in ice, I put it in Alaska cargo. 2 hours, he went out there, he got it. 5 stars, 5 stars. He says, those cuts are good. I said, those are custom cuts because the Baribunka guy took care of it. So support us anyhow you want. This is how we grow.
Yes.
Ibrahim, we have to be self-sustained, right? So we are Gambians. We got a lot of folks in Seattle, Vancouver, Portland area. Whatever we want, if we unite, we can achieve it. And we will be self-sustained. And how do you grow? By empowering folks within your community, folks who had business. If you send me stuff, you buy stuff from me, I am involved. Whether the community show up, my role as a community member, as a leader in the community, whenever the community has an event, whether I have $10, whether I have $20, I will show up because I think visibility is very, very important. That's what I learned from the military. I don't care about titles, moments, no, but I care about responsibility and be visible. Today, if I say, oh, I stood for the community, no one can dispute that. They all know that because I stood for the community, right? And moving along with the nonprofit organization, we did a huge impact during COVID. Every Friday for the entire time, we were giving free rice, free meat, and all that to the community. And it's done at the mosque, both mosque. Folks will go in and even today, blankets. I mean, there was a refugee crisis, Syria, and there was time Afghan refugees. They came in, they benefit from that. I mean, most of those, I don't know them, but that's what it is. Because when I got out, I felt that I need to give back to the community. What does that look like? Does that synchronize with my morals and what my upbringing is like? Am I able to make a difference? It's not by me. I'm getting old, but I want to leave a good legacy. And I want to be positive. The energy and the drive. And it's not all about business. My business is there. I established that before the nonprofit. But if I get on the community, I call people, hey, can you represent? Can you do this? Can you do it? And they get compensated. And that's what I wanted to do moving forward, to grow, to be partners, but more importantly, to create visibility. It's all about lenses. You wanted to enlighten those lenses and make a difference. It's very, very, very important. It's very important. And I'm praying that all of us watching here, who agrees with me, who doesn't agree with me, that's okay. I respect your opinion. You can call me, we can have a debate after this. It's okay. But at the end of the day, we are all Gambians. And I respect each and individual, each and every one of you. It's important. And this is what our country looks like. If we're angry at each other, Ibrahim, we malign each other's character. At the end of the day, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to come together because that anger and resentment fosters and it builds inside. And I want everyone to know that. And, it's a difficult conversation, but I ask for forgiveness. And I saw this young man, Omar Bun. He's one of the troublemakers. I'm going to call him out. He's a Kianka guy. Yep, he's always on. He's a cyber warrior.
He got time. He got time in his hands, man.
Yeah, but
it's
I'm gonna get back. I told him, you gotta tone it down, bro. You learn one thing or that. Yeah. You say stuff, people don't get mad. I don't take these things personal because I think that's how you see things, and I have a different way of seeing things. And if we synchronize and if we take a minute and listen to each other and engage each other, I think you can learn one or two things. I can learn one or two things that's going to be beneficial. for humanity, and it's all about humanity, my brother, man. And with that, I thank you for your time,
Yeah.
man. You know.
And thank you so much, Sariang Marong. And this has been a wonderful Sonko Marong conversation. And I hope all of you have not only benefited from knowing who I am and knowing who Sariang is and where he comes from, but also understanding some of the influences that we've had and the impact of other people in our life, but the deep conversation that we went into about the social and political situation of the Gambia and also Gambians in the diaspora. So thank you so much for your time. I know you have a shop to go attend to, you have a family to go look after, and the Your People for the People show is taking a break. That's why it's easier to have Sariang on this platform today. And hopefully you can get me Coach Pasamba. I messaged him, but he has not opened my message for like almost a week
I
now,
will let him
and I
know.
really want to
No
sit down with
problem.
him.
No problem.
Yes, and Musa, and also sometime Musa Jeng too, because I think it's important, Sariang, to bring out all of your stories.
Yes.
People see you sit down on these platforms to talk, but they don't know who you are.
Mm.
They don't know what your story is.
Yes.
Musa Jeng has been doing incredible stuff in Atlanta and Code too. And my goal always has been, let's bring those conversations out. Let's talk and understand where people are coming from.
Yes.
Hopefully, one or two people would learn from it. And that Omar Bun dude, I know you're a fan. I know I know you can't stay away from these conversations. So thank you for being here. And I just encourage you to tune it down. If you don't want to be blocked on this platform, you just have to be able to accommodate people when they speak. Let's be respectful. Let's do it with civility, and we are all going to learn from it. But don't be here and be using derogatory terms against our public individuals. I think that's not what we do here.
Yes. And Bon, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something, one or two from us today. Gambia is too small. I mean, you never know. Cool. Today, some people learned that today. Ibrahim and I, my mom and his dad, my mom and his dad, same mom and dad. I mean, I grew up
Yeah.
right in his dad's hands, man. And I remember some of the things that I influenced. I mean, it has passion. The man is good man, family man, and every day. Even today, I was telling my wife yesterday. I said I'm going to talk about the history, and Bambo. Bambo. But remember, he says ba bi ita ka fu bi sonet alma sama bi man sonet dara bi man sonet dara bi man. All right, Ibrahim.
Thank you so much, Saria, man. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it, once again for being here. And again, consider subscribing to our YouTube. And this interview will be on my Facebook and also on our YouTube as well. So you all have a wonderful rest of your day and happy Saturday. I look forward to seeing you all on Monday. I'm going to be talking to Yaya Menteng Sanyang. Yaya Menteng Sanyang will be my guest on Monday. And I look forward